Hola a todas, ¿cómo están? Hola a todos. Ya tenemos a la doctora Yetsa, ¿todavía no? Ahí viene. Buenísimo. Bueno, pues muchas gracias a Decididas, muchas gracias Bárbara, muchas gracias a todos ustedes por estar acá, por acompañarnos en una gran conversación de hoy acerca de la economía que nadie vio venir, el deporte femenil. ¿A dónde va a parar esto? Así que las escucho porque de verdad que estas noticias nos emocionan muchísimo, especialmente en este tipo de foros, porque se abre una nueva conversación y se hace un antes y después. Durante décadas, el deporte femenil fue tratado como una causa, como un esfuerzo social, como una conversación donde se trató mucho acerca de equidad. Pero algo cambió. Hoy ya no nos estamos preguntando si el deporte femenil merece o no atención. Esa ya la tiene. Nos estamos preguntando quién entendió la oportunidad primero, porque lo estamos viendo con muchísima claridad. Es corrección de mercado, es redistribución cultural, es una aceleración económica. Las audiencias crecen, los patrocinios se mueven, las narrativas cambian y las nuevas generaciones se alinean sus nuevos consumos con sus valores. La pregunta ya no es si el deporte femenil puede competir, sino ahora la nueva pregunta ante esta realidad es ¿quién va a construir las plataformas, los derechos de transmisión, las marcas y las estrategias de inversión que definirán toda la próxima década? Esto no es solo deporte, es poder, es visibilidad y es quién define la cultura y quién gana con ella. Así que bienvenidas y bienvenidos a la economía que nadie vio venir. Les quiero presentar a Sainz, CCO de Caliente, y les quiero presentar a Honey. Y ayúdame, help me with your last name.
Thaljieh.
Thaljieh.
It's okay, you can call me Honey. Nobody will misunderstand it.
Perfect,
Honey
I love
is
this.
easier. Honey is my real name.
I love this. Bueno, a mí me gustaría abrir este panel. Hi, Dr. Yetsa. How are you? Pleased to see you. Wonderful. Entonces, me gustaría arrancar este panel preguntándote, Fer, ¿quién crees que subestimó más al deporte femenil? ¿Los medios, las marcas o los inversionistas?
Los dueños. La verdad. Recordemos cómo inició ustedes me conocen, soy muy clara, muy directa y cero política. Me gusta decir las cosas como son. Antes, agradecer a Decididas, a Bárbara. ¿Dónde está Bárbara? Por ahí debe estar, pero por la invitación, porque siempre está reuniendo a este grupo de mujeres talentosas. La verdad, yo estoy muy contenta de compartir este panel con Honey, con la doctora y obviamente contigo, que creo que estas conversaciones son muy importantes y sobre todo conectar y aprender de otras mujeres en la industria, ¿no? Imagínate cuando yo me iba a imaginar estar aquí al lado de Honey con la fundadora y directora del soccer de Palestina, ¿no? Entonces, it's amazing, Honey, to have you here. Y bueno, ahora sí, respondiendo a tu pregunta, recordemos, voy a hablar un poco de soccer. La razón por la que se empezaron los primeros equipos es por un mandatorio de FIFA, no porque los dueños lo quisieran. Esa es la realidad, ¿no? Entonces obligaron a los equipos a tener un equipo femenil. Yo creo que así nació mal, ¿no? Porque si nosotras tuviéramos un equipo femenil, hay varias aquí que queremos tener uno, sería muy diferente si las mujeres estuviéramos al frente del deporte femenil, ¿no? Porque el deporte además tiene que ver con pasión y tiene que ver mucho con estas ganas. Pero sorprendentemente se empezaron a dar cuenta hoy de los resultados, ¿no? Porque hoy ya no es un mandatorio, no es una causa social, sino ya se dieron cuenta que hay afición, que ayer estuve compartiendo con las mujeres las futbolistas del 71, ¿no? Y recuerden que en 1971 fue el primer mundial femenil y que tuvo un éxito total y que lo borraron de la historia los medios y la FIFA, ¿no? Entonces, la data está ahí, los números están ahí, los fans cada vez están creciendo. La pregunta es una liga, por ejemplo, en México que hace 7 años, bueno, creo que ya este es el 8º año, que empezó contra otras ligas que llevan más de 100 años. Entonces, también nos exigen, como a todas las mujeres, ¿no?, que vayamos muy rápido y no darle el tiempo a este crecimiento. Entonces, yo creo que respondiendo, yo creo que los primeros fueron los dueños, pero hoy también hay muchos dueños de equipos que se dieron cuenta y que están muy comprometidos también, y que hoy la labor es cómo le hacemos para acelerarlo, porque hoy está la audiencia, está la data, pero todavía no es un negocio rentable. Esa es la cuestión, ¿cómo lo vamos a hacer rentable? Y al rato, si me dejan, les pongo varios ejemplos, y cómo las marcas y cómo las mujeres que estamos en posición de liderazgo hemos apoyado para que esto suceda un poco más rápido.
Sí, me encanta. Muchísimas gracias, Fer. Honey, vamos a estar cambiando entre inglés y español, porque la doctora Yetsa habla inglés y Honey habla inglés, ¿va? For decades, women's sports have been framed as symbolic, a storage of courage, of identity, of resistance. But we're now seeing a global shift. Women's sports leagues are generating record-breaking audiences, sponsorship deals, and cross-border influences. Your journey shows how sports can place a community on the map and rewrite its narrative completely. How should governments and private sector leaders think about women's sport, not as charity or inspiration, but as part of their long-term economic and nation branding strategies?
Wow, big question. I have to answer all of this. Actually, you know, like how governments see, or like how like policy shapes investment in women's football, how to move forward from not being just a charity, and how shifting the narrative, actually. First of all, I always say that we need women's leaders. Mm-hmm. We need women to be in positions. We need them to lead the table. We need them to be not just invited. They have to be the decision makers. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we look at statistics, for example, let's take UEFA, yeah? Because it's 55 member associations where women's rights, democracy, human rights, and all of this, right, in Europe, at least they say. We have only 2-3 female presidents from among the 55 member associations. So when we shift the narrative of having women deciding on behalf of other women, there would be a huge shift. But not only that, if we talk about investment, if we talk about a belief, you know, changing the mindsets of women's football, women's sport is not just about inspiration. It's systematic, strategic, and it is a project, it's a business case that will generate revenues. And if we look at the audience, the fandom of women's football, they are a loyal, committed fandoms. They come because they love it. They invest in it because they want it. Some people say that investing in women's football is expensive, but actually, not investing it is expensive. Because the more we invest, the more we elevate the women's football and we shift it to another level. But when we talk about also cultural change, we need to create role models as well, to see that girls will look forward to see women in positions that they can, you know, like follow them. When I was a little girl, I wanted to see a role model that looked like me. When I started playing football, it was not possible. I thought that I'm completely alone. So creating role models that can relate, that they can look like you, that they can be from the same ethnicity, background, this will give a boost to young girls to continue culturally to believe that this is changing and this will shift the whole narrative. Last, but we talk about politics. Politically, we need a political leader to understand that policies should change. And importantly, have more access to girls from grassroots level to elite level to ensure that it is not just an inspirational charity work. If we take examples like Barcelona, for example, Barcelona is one of the most strongest female women team of all time now. Why? Because the club understood it's not a CSR project. It's much more than this. They took it seriously, they invested in it, they moved forward. Now when Barcelona female team play, they have thousands of spectators coming from all around the world. Other examples like the Matildas in Australia, if we talk about the global north, how they managed to invest in women's football before organizing the FIFA Women's World Cup 23, which was one of the best and highest highlight of all time with more than 2 billion viewers. Now, if we talk about the Middle East, Saudi Arabia has been a massive change in investing in women's football, supporting women's league at all level from scratch. They started from, so this shift, understanding these 3 points, the belief, the financial investment, the culture, and the political change will massively change women's football, not as just a business case, but we should take it seriously because the phase 1 is growth, has passed. Now the second phase is power.
I agree with you. Thank you so much. And also, I think an important question is what's going to happen next with the narrative? And the narrative is shaping cultures, right? And I have the next question for Dr. Yetsa. When a female athlete signs a multi-million-dollar contract and fills stadiums and leads global audiences, it shifts the cultural conversation about who is creating value. Can the economics of women's sports reshape narratives of female power?
Wow, okay, hello everybody. I don't speak Spanish, and I feel like I should have taken Spanish in high school instead of French all of a sudden. It's so wonderful to be here with you virtually. Thank you for that very, very massive question. Can it shape narratives of power? Yes, I believe that it can. And for my intervention, if you don't mind, I'm going to talk a little bit of science, because I believe that the science of gender development and the way that girls and boys play has a lot to do with the branding and the narrative around girls and women's sports. And so just bear with me as a scientist just for a few minutes here, everybody. So what we know from studies as early as 1974 is that girls and boys, men and women, play differently. That's a gender development thing. While lots of socialization cues, situational factors, and peer influence do impact gender development, generally, girls and women play more cooperatively, while boys and men play more competitively, and girls maintain pro-social, kind, altruistic behaviors, even in competitive environments. I'll give you one example. So the oldest scientist in the book, her name is Eleanor Maccabee, 1974. She rewrote a landmark study called The Psychology of Sex Differences. What she showed, again, is that girls tend to play more cooperatively, joyfully, and they maintain pro-social behaviors even when they're competitive. A study back in 2019 proved her point from 1974. It was done in China. They looked at children aged 4 and 5 years old, and they asked them to play a competitive game or a cooperative game. The competitive game, they asked them to race down a 15-meter track. On the cooperative side, they asked them to help each other get down the 15-meter track. They then asked the children after the competitive condition or the cooperative condition if they were willing to share their stickers with their playmates and how many stickers would they give. What they found was overwhelming. The girls in the group were far more willing to share their stickers, to share their glory after the competitive play than the boys, and they shared more stickers. Think about Alyssa Liu in the recent Winter Olympics, where she shared that moment of great joy winning the gold with the bronze medalist from Japan. That was an example of science in action. So yes, we can start to shift the narratives because women compete differently than men. They show up for each other differently than men when they're on those big stages. And for that reason, women's sports is not a branch of men's sports. It's not to be branded as an offshoot of men's sports. It's a unique, authentic brand that starts as early as 4 or 5 years old when it comes to gender development and the psychology of it. So taking it all the way back to the science, the answer is a resounding yes. It can shift the narratives, and a lot of it has to do with our biology. Thank you.
Wonderful, Dr. Yetsa. Wonderful. Y Fer, siguiendo esta conversación acerca de la narrativa, desde tu experiencia, ¿cómo pueden las marcas y las mujeres en posición de toma de decisiones, que hoy ya sabemos que hay muchas mujeres más como tú, como Honey, como la doctora Yetsa, convertirse en aceleradoras del poder económico de las mujeres en el deporte sin caer en ese discurso superficial? ¿Y qué impacto real puede tener eso en la percepción de liderazgo femenino en la sociedad?
También digo, I need to answer all of that.
In English.
In English? No. Spanglish, maybe. ¿Me puede repetir la pregunta? No, es cierto.
O sea, ¿cómo las mujeres pueden tener en esas posturas de liderazgo? ¿Cómo pueden tener en el impacto de liderazgo de cómo cambia la narrativa de las mujeres en la sociedad?
Ok. Primero, no somos todavía muchas mujeres en posiciones de poder. Somos un 5% todavía. En la industria del deporte hoy, y todavía falta mucho, ¿no? por tener más mujeres, como lo dijo Honey, like leaders en los equipos, ¿no? Realmente decision makers, no que ser invitadas, sino realmente tomar la decisión y poder controlar la narrativa. En México solamente hay una dueña de un equipo de fútbol, que son Juárez, Alejandra de la Vega, que es la única dueña mujer, y sí hace una diferencia cada vez cuando hablo con ella, y cómo impulsa también a las Bravas de Juárez, ¿no? Pero fuera de ahí, pues sí hay, inclusive en directoras, nada más está Olimpia Cabral, que es directora de Chivas. That's it. No, entonces, ¿qué tenemos que hacer? Nosotras, open the door to invite more women to join us, ¿no? O sea, y normalizarlo. Es nuestra labor. Nos costó muchísimo llegar aquí. O sea, yo ya sé que Honey es mega chingona, nada más por estar aquí. Chingona y todo, like, you will know. It's like cocky, but it's like cocky, but in Mexican way. I learned it, okay? Entonces, pues yo ya sé que es súper exitosa, porque pues, para haber estado en esa posición tuvo que demostrar 10 veces más por qué tenía que estar ahí, ¿no? El deporte femenil, ya, o sea, algo que es importante es que yo sé que Honey, que la doctora, sí nos gusta mucho el deporte femenil, sí creemos en la causa, pero al final somos empresarias, nos gusta el dinero. Entonces, y vemos retorno de inversión. El deporte femenil, principalmente hoy en México, el soccer, ha estado reventando todos los récords de audiencias. Hay 65 millones de views hoy. Hay llenos, por ejemplo, en las finales de Tigre, Monterrey, de 45,000, 50,000 personas que van al estadio. Yo que tengo la oportunidad de ser el patrocinador de todas las ligas, de todos los deportes, veo las estadísticas y, por ejemplo, está por encima del béisbol, ¿no? Tiene mucho más audiencia del béisbol y, sin embargo, no es más rentable que el béisbol, ni tiene más patrocinios del béisbol. Yo le digo en marketing se decía miopía del marketing, yo le digo misoginia del marketing, ¿no? Todavía las decisiones de las empresas los hacen muchos hombres, y por más que vean la data, que es una data dura, que es ciencia, todavía dicen, no, pero todavía nadie ve el fútbol femenil. Oye, ¿cómo hay 65 millones de personas, están creciendo? Hubo la audiencia de apertura del 2025, tuvo más de 25 millones de audiencia, eso no lo tiene ningún otro deporte, y aún todavía hay esa resistencia. ¿Qué hicimos para impulsar la Liga Femenil? Nos reunimos con la Liga, yo lideré esa mesa, por eso es importante, The Table, y me reuní con la directora de marketing de Cotex, mujer, con la directora de marketing de Nissan, mujer, con el director de Amazon, no era mujer, pero era muy pro mujer, que también los necesitábamos y hay hombres aliados. Y dijimos, vamos a ser los Founders Partners de la Liga Femenil, ¿no? Y fuimos los Founders Partners. Y hoy la Liga Femenil en YouTube, si ven nuestros comerciales, si ven que está Cotex, está Amazon, está Nissan, es porque nosotros le dimos un dinero a la Liga Femenil para que todos los demás pudieran tener visibilidad, porque en YouTube, y que se pudiera monetizar y que pudiéramos cerciorarnos, además nosotros como estos patrocinadores, que sí fuera destinado el dinero para ellas, porque normalmente cuando te venden un patrocinio te bonifican el femenil y tú no sabes si está llegando los recursos a ella. Nosotros como patrocinadores tenemos que darnos cuenta de eso. Entonces sí es muy importante esta colectividad y que empecemos a más mujeres que tienen este poder decir, sí que padre, porque yo les decía a ellas, estamos haciendo historia. ¿Cuántas veces en la vida puedes decir, estoy en el inicio de una liga de soccer femenil? A lo mejor en muchos años mis nietos ya van a decir, ay mamá, el fútbol femenil ya es una realidad, ¿no? Pero que nosotras seamos estas pioneras y que podamos estar y podamos ser un acelerador, nos vuelve privilegiadas, pero también muy responsables.
Muy responsables.
Honey, you didn't understand anything. Why you clapping?
Honey, you've built women's football in Palestine from a place where the sport didn't just lack infrastructure, it lacked permission. When you look at today's global boom in women's sports, what signs of economic potential do you recognize that the world isn't taking it seriously yet?
You know, when I first stepped on the football, neighborhood, on the dirty concrete ground, with shoes that was not even mine, that I borrowed or someone gave it to me, which was not new at all. I thought that I needed a permission from the society, from the neighbors, from my father, who refused that I play football, right? And then, when it shifted, I stepped on the pitch, a real pitch. Therefore, I felt that I owned it. I didn't need a permission anymore. I owned the narrative. I had this liberation, the feeling of that I'm liberated through this beautiful game. And it's more than just getting a permission. It's about systematic economical growth at all levels, in terms of visibility, in terms of inspiration, in terms of shifting the narrative that women's football is not just a nice, glamorous story. It's about power, it's about resilience, it's about giving recognition to societies. Because I believe if you look at the society at large, if women is not empowered there, it's a weak society. Women represent most of half of the population. If they are not considered in the decision-making, they are not considered on the pitch and off the pitch, everything would be still weak. Therefore, what's not recognized until today is the power that women's football can bring. Not just by the numbers or the ticket sales, it's about the systematic investments and the strategic part of it, that a long-term sustainable development at all levels, while building infrastructure, while giving platforms for empowerment, while we're talking about coaches, referees, the whole ecosystem has still yet to change. Now, there is a great improvement, of course. If we look at women's football now, comparing it when the first World Cup was in 1991, there is a massive shift. There is an equal pay we're talking about now. There is increase in prize money. There are women now taking the narrative and fighting for their rights. The US women's football soccer example is a great example. They won 4 World Cups, but they still didn't have the equal pay and equal rights as men, who they never even made it to the final, never. But women did, and they were paid less, much less. So when they came together and decided that, no, we want to fight for equal pay because our records, our medals, our participation is much higher than men, then it happened. And what is missing now is that the leadership and the political systems, they still don't realize that women can bring much more benefit if investing in it properly on a long term, not just a PR event show that it is, oh, great, we support women here. Or like when we participate in different conferences around the world, we need to tick the box and have a women panel, and the rest of the panels, they are just mainly dominated. I'm happy that it's here female dominated. So this is one of our unique conferences that, of course, we need the men, we need equality, we need diversity at all levels all the time, but that's just an example how the shift has to be from those leaders in those governance bodies, in those organizations, in those governments to ensure that investing in women, it's a long-term success rather than just a charity or a CSR project. And we have seen those examples widely over around the world with the examples I just mentioned. So I think we still need to empower women in terms of financially, politically, culturally, at all levels to ensure that the shift is still happening. But so far, it has been shifting in the right direction, and now we need it to another level to have it more serious, to have it not just, happening, but we need serious actions to ensure women own the narrative. And they will change it the way they want. They will lead it the way we want. They will allow who is in and who's not in. So we need to see those women, and we need the women also to believe in themselves and say, I can do it. Because there's a pressure on the women that we need to tick all the boxes. We need to, to say, if I miss one of the criteria, I can't do it. No, we need women to say, I can do it. And I want to be the CEO, I want to be the president, I want to be the commercial director. And we need those courage from those women to just kick the door, open it, and get in and say, I can do it. Because they can do it. They have all the potential to do it. You all have the potential to do it. Because I always say, if I manage to do it, growing up in Palestine, breaking down all these barriers, political, cultural, social, and moving from this narrow streets of Bethlehem to the world stages of FIFA and many other places, you can all do it. Yes. So, woo. That's it.
The sky is the limit. Make no small plans. Thank you, honey. Thank you. I want to ask Dr. Yetsa, when we talk about the gender gap, we often focus solely on salaries. But inequality also lives in the infrastructure, the scheduling, the investment in development, media visibility, and also in governance. Is inequality in sports merely about pay, or is it deeply structural?
No, I think I want to just echo what Honey said about we all can do it, and there are no small goals. I really agree with that. So I think the inequality in women's sports or men's sports, comparing the two, is deeply structural. Some of it was touched on in the past two interventions. Financial capacity is not the same thing as economic empowerment. Okay, so financial capacity is you have a certain number of dollars or pesos, or in my case from Ghana, cedis in the bank account. But economic empowerment is something altogether different. That's the confidence, that's the structural backing and the support to do with your resources what you want, what you see fit to do. I'll just give you a small example. I competed for Ghana as a long jumper. Not always, I didn't always jump very far. Top 8 in Africa, but I wasn't, one of the biggest stars. But I competed long enough and far enough to get to know the ecosystem of African sport. We had many teammates and colleagues who competed beautifully all around the world. World record holders, Olympians, Paralympians, and they were the breadwinners of their family. But because of the deep patriarchy embedded within their society, strangely enough, they didn't have the agency to do with their economic success what they wanted to. Many times, they actually had their funds totally siphoned off to either their male partners, their coaches, or the government. And so they were earning the income, but they didn't have the agency and the empowerment to utilize it. So in that sense, you kind of get the sense that actually financial capacity is not the same thing as economic empowerment. So it goes back to what Honey was saying. I think women generally are the stewards of society, period. We are sort of the harbinger of learning, growth, development for our families, for our communities, for our teams. And so in women's sports, there has to be a concomitant recognition that the structures around us, be they patriarchal or misogynistic, whatever the sort of ill that's affecting us, also affects how we move within that industry. Our challenge, as those of us who are trying to lead in this space, is not to recapitulate the mistakes of the past and to actively work against those systemic, structural, sometimes psychological barriers to women's advancement and true empowerment. So to answer your question succinctly, it's deeply structural. To answer it sort of with a human story, in my experience, it affected people really quite severely. In some cases, women have lost their lives because of these structural inequities. So it's not minor and can be fatal, and therefore really needs to be proactively dismantled as we continue to grow this beautiful industry called women's sports.
Thank you so much. Fer, tú tienes una posición muy relevante en este momento en el mercado. Como CCO de una de las marcas más fuertes en este ecosistema deportivo y como fundadora de Fulana.mx, ¿qué datos o señales te confirman hacia dónde va el crecimiento del deporte femenil en los próximos años?
El crecimiento es, ahora sí que, unstoppable, lo voy a decir así, ¿no? O sea, esto va a suceder. Esto es algo que va a crecer. La pregunta son dos, es ¿qué tan rápido? Para eso está Fulana.mx, que es esta plataforma que va a ayudar a acelerar y monetizar rápido el retorno de inversión. ¿Y quién va a controlar la narrativa? ¿No? Esa es la que más a mí me inquieta, porque y esta es una invitación para todas las mujeres aquí. Nosotras, las mujeres, tenemos que controlar la narrativa, ¿no? O sea, no podemos, esto va a ser un negocio, tarde o temprano, porque los datos están ahí. Yo en Caliente, por ejemplo, es la segunda liga más apostada, por encima del béisbol. I'm saying that in Caliente, the Women's Soccer League is the second with most bets on the platform. Is obviously the male soccer, and then the female soccer, and then the other sports, like even above NBA, MLB. So that's super interesting for us, ¿no? Entonces, o sea, la data está ahí. ¿Qué nosotros tenemos que hacer? Justo lo que dijo la doctora, es decir, no puede ser una copia del varonil, ya lo vimos, ya lo dijo. ¿Por qué? Porque jugamos diferente, por género. Y el error es que se ha hecho como un copy-paste mal hecho del varonil, ¿no? Inclusive en los uniformes, en las deportistas. O sea, debe de haber gente más preparada. Ya hay más doctoras de nutrición, porque tenemos nuestros ciclos hormonales. No es lo mismo a los que fuimos deportistas de alto rendimiento. Fui deportista de alto rendimiento hace muchos años y algunos kilos, pero lo fui. ¿No? Pero, o sea, al final, pues, no es lo mismo jugar cuando estás menstruando y nadie está hablando de eso, ¿no? Entonces tenemos que tratarlo también de manera diferente, y la narrativa también, los valores son diferentes. Quien ha estado en un juego de cualquiera de deporte femenil, el ambiente es distinto. Yo llevo feliz a mi hijo al deporte femenil. Entonces, sí tenemos que agradecer y aprender, obviamente, del deporte varonil, pero tenemos una oportunidad también de hacerlo diferente y de no tener los vicios de violencia que ellos han construido, de esta masculinidad tóxica, de que vemos estas porras peleando en el estadio donde están cobrando vidas, que es muy triste. Eso no lo tenemos que llevar al deporte femenil y por eso nosotros tenemos que controlar la narrativa. El éxito del deporte femenil es que lo posicionemos primero en generaciones de comunidad, de colectividad, en las nuevas generaciones, con nuevas referencias visuales y que realmente nosotros controlemos porque también es parte de un movimiento, ¿no?, político. Y para terminar, o sea, que dijo la doctora de que nosotros somos el 50% de la población, yo a veces me pregunto, somos la mayoría con más minoría, con menos derechos, con menos oportunidades, y eso tiene que cambiar. Y por último, también yo creo que es muy importante los hombres. Para mí, se preguntarán, ¿qué deporte hizo? No, a lo mejor ni les interesa. Fui tenista, ¿no? Y fui tenista, I'm saying that I was playing tennis when professionally. You don't see me now, but I was really okay. But it was because my mother told me do not play soccer because we're for men. I believe I wouldn't be better a soccer player, but I switched to tennis because of the skirt and, you know, more female. But I love to play tennis. Y algo que dijo que me encantó Billie Jean King del tenis es de los únicos deportes que es mixto, que juega un hombre y una mujer a nivel profesional. Y ahí nadie discrimina. Así debería de ser. Deberíamos llegar en un momento donde estuviera la equidad, donde también estuviera el hombre y la mujer jugando lo mismo por el mismo punto, ¿no? Y con eso termino.
Wow, gracias. Ahí está el futuro, listo para nosotros. Honey, I want to ask you the last question. What do you think is urgent that it needs to happen right now, and how we, as a public, can start working on it to make this dream fully come true?
I want all the women in the room, that the great, amazing, powerful women that I met during these 2 days, to just go for it. I think that's what we need. We need to go for it. And stop allowing men inviting us to the table. We just go for it. And be brave and just, fight for it. You are capable, you can do it. And that's where we need the change. We need those women to just say, I can do it. Now, we have seen the president of the IOC, she's number 10, she's a woman. We need more women like this to decide on the narrative of women, to decide on where to invest in women. So for me, that is the most needed now, diversity and inclusion in decision making. This is really important, that's number one. And what is also needed is policies. We need policies to embrace. Numbers should be increasing. We should not be okay with 5%, 7%, 10%. 30%, we need 50%. We need to equalize all of that, and we need to push for it. We don't have to be afraid or modest, because if we talk, we might lose our job, or if we express, it's too much for the men to realize and understand us. Just push for it, speak loud, don't forget where you come from, just be aware of your capabilities. The women can do everything. They are the mothers, they are the sisters, they are the raising children, they are the society at large, they are everything. They can multitask, right? The woman can be driving a car, but writing a message and feeding the baby and doing everything at once. And we need to embrace that in societies, in positions, and not say, this is not for me. This is for you and for us all. We need to embrace it, we need to go for it, and that will be the change when women decide on behalf of other women. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such an amazing closure. Thank you so much, Dr. Yetsa, for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge. Thank you so much. Thank you, Honey, for opening the road for new women. And muchas gracias, Fer, por estar haciendo este ejemplo y este camino que nos sirve a muchas mujeres de salir y hacer lo que nos corresponde. Muchísimas gracias a todos ustedes que nos estuvieron escuchando y gracias a Decididas.